Okay, where do I start? I never know how to start these things, especially when it comes to kind of a review-proof series like Twilight. By the way, it always kills me when over the title of every single one of these movies now is called the Twilight Saga. I don't know. There's something about the word saga, the Twilight Saga. This is not just a mere story; it's a saga. I don't know. It bothers me. But there's really no point in me reviewing this thing, and it's kind of silly. It's not like you're not tuning in this review for me to tell you whether or not this is a good movie or a good story or not. You know it's not. It's pretty much universally accepted that Twilight is probably the worst, seriously, like the worst cultural phenomenon to occur this decade. It's going to be like, I'll get back to this, but we're going to look back on this and realize that it was really fucking silly. But, I'm not going to change anyone's mind. That's part of the problem of being a critic sometimes is, you touch these, there are certain sacred cows that I could review all day. I hate keep bringing it back to Final Fantasy, but if you like Final Fantasy, I'm not going to change your mind, especially since it's one of those cult phenomena, so... Twilight, I'm not expecting any of the Twihards to look at this and go, Jesus Christ, this is really fucking stupid when I'm watching. Although I do think it's funny how my brother and I were talking about this a while back, and we were discussing, is this just, am I, holding this up to a double standard? If I was making fun of Twilight and somebody turned it around on me and was like, oh yeah, well, you like this, which is equally as stupid, some kind of reverse, some kind of guy phenomenon where we're dealing with a sociopathic guy who's manipulating and basically tormenting two hapless women. There's really not a series like that. The only thing I could think of was maybe I could be bashing on wrestling and a Twilight fan and be like, oh yeah, well, you like wrestling, that's fucking stupid. And I was like, well, you might have something there. And at the same time I said, well, no, because I have always fully admitted that wrestling is completely stupid. And I watch it because it's really bad and at the same time really funny. So, I guess where I'll start with this one is, the reason you watch this one is to watch my reaction to it, I think. And, you want me to tell you whether or not it's really funny. And from a technical standpoint and from a storytelling standpoint, this is the best of the Twilight Saga so far. But from a riff tracks perspective, from a, you watch it because it's so bad it's good, this is probably the worst. The original Twilight and New Moon are hilarious movies. I'm telling you, seriously, New Moon was one of the best theater experiences I've ever been to, because it was funny. It was you couldn't have made an intentionally funnier movie. You could actually argue, how Tommy Wiseau made The Room, and he came back later and said, oh, this was totally a black comedy. I made this as a comedy. If the director, I think it was Weiss, if he had Weiss had come back and said, oh, this was you didn't know this was a comedy? New Moon would have blown your mind, because it was, seriously, New Moon is a work of genius. If this had been a seriously satirical work, you'd have been like, this is the greatest movie ever made. But Eclipse, by the way, there's no eclipses in this film. I'm always rather annoyed by that. Same with the New Moon. There's no new moons in that movie. It's really boring. And the trailer would have you believe that this is the action-packed climax of the Twilight Saga. All shit's gonna break loose. So we get... they've been building up this feud between the red-headed vampire and the Cullens and stuff like that, how she's raising an army, and finally that army hits and there's going to be this big war. It doesn't happen. The war takes, seriously, it's about a 3-minute action climax at best. It really doesn't build to anything. And so this is really a watch-checking movie where... Honestly, it's kind of funny. I spent most of this movie daydreaming, trying to figure stuff out. And I'll tell you what I was trying to figure out in a minute, but really the first hour of this is simultaneously the most tolerable and yet kind of really boring. That's not making much sense, but I'll try to explain. Really, it was really interesting. I thought the first hour was okay, honestly. And I started to analyze in the theater why. And I was like, why am I kind of tolerating this so far? And I realized why. It's because this movie, probably more than any other film, and the first hour more than any other part of that movie, we don't spend nearly as much time with Edward and Bella, who are by far the most loathsome and repetitive, droning creatures in literary history. Like, in the first hour of this, we actually deal with several of the Cullen characters, like Jasper, the I forget his name now, the blonde doctor guy, Carlisle, the other guys in that clan who actually kind of go into their backstories in flashbacks, and you kind of realize finally 3 movies in what their deal is, where they come from, why they have the kind of experiences they've had, why their attitudes are kind of like that. And believe it or not, their characters are far more interesting and well developed than Edward and Bella. So when you're talking with Jasper and Carlisle, and I forget, Julie, I think her name is, the blonde one, I was like, wow, these characters actually have a backstory. They have motivations. They have a history. Whereas whenever Edward and Bella are on screen, after at a certain point, I realized, like, it's stunning to me in this movie how many conversations they have, just like one-on-one conversations between Edward and Bella, right? They have so many of these conversations in different places, in different situations, but they're always talking about the same thing. So I really started at about the hour mark, kind of like droning off and trying to figure out Twilight. It was a hopeless effort, I know. But I was like, there has to be something behind this thing, this whole Twilight phenomenon. I really want to understand it, because believe it or not, I don't go into these films wanting to hate them. Like Final Fantasy 13, I know it's hard to believe, but you probably thought I just went in there like gung-ho wanting to hate that fucking game. And I didn't. I was actually trying to fool myself into liking it for a long time, so I really didn't hold any hopes I was going to like Twilight. But, I wasn't going in there being like, I'm going to rip this movie a new asshole. If it was good, I would tell you. And so I told you, like, this movie actually started off pretty promisingly. We actually followed the Riley, the newborn vampire, as he was kind of dealing with the hunger and the thirst and trying to raise this coven and trying to keep him under control. Believe it or not, that was actually far more interesting than anything we had seen up to this point. But with Edward and Bella, I'm just trying to figure it out. This slavish obsession, this breathtaking romance that has enraptured so many people. Like, I wanted to get that. I really wanted to decode this thing, and understand why. And I was like, watching these guys talk over and over and over again, I just started asking some very simple questions. Like, and see if you can play along and answer this thing. And don't point at the novels and tell me there's anything in the novels that explain this. I'm going just from the movie. Movie perspective, just figure this out. Now, I've often criticized the apparent romance between Edward and Bella as really just being a lustful relationship. Like, they want to fuck, and that's why they're so devoted to each other. And had this been some kind of I hate to say postmodern, but some kind of ironic take on, two tragic teenagers mistaking lust for love, mistaking a high school crush for love, this might have been a far more intelligent series than anyone gave it credit for. But it's not. We are really meant to believe that Edward and Bella are like true love, eternal devotion, one in a zillion, one-on-one perfect pairing of love. They get each other. They are destined to be. She is willing to sacrifice everything. She is willing to throw her life, throw any semblance of a normal life, kids, family, integration into normal society. She's willing to devote herself to the kingdom of darkness, forever enslaved to the thirst for blood. the eternal urge to kill and murder and feed on people. And I just had a very simple question. Why? And I was looking for this answer. Why do they love each other so much? And okay, aside from the raw physical urge to fuck, answer this question. Name one interest that Edward and Bella share in common. Take your time. I'm not joking here. Like, if you can answer this question, name one thing that they mutually like. Name one thing. Name one thing aside from their urge to be together. Like, one thing aside from them wanting to be married, or them wanting to fuck, or them wanting to spend eternity, or talking about the logistics of how it would work. Name one thing they have ever talked about, aside from cellular mitosis. I can't. Okay, I'll even go one simpler. Name one thing that Bella Swan is interested in, period. It's a simple question. And, if after 3 movies you can't answer that, I started actually digging back. I started thinking, like, well, have I seen her do anything socially? I've seen her watch a movie, but she was kind of psychotic at the time. I don't think you can qualify that as a response. You've seen her reading Romeo and Juliet, but that was a school assignment. I can't qualify that as an interest. She took ballet once, I think. I don't think they ever really talk about it. I remember one time Jacob and her were fixing a motorcycle, and they're playing music, and she tells him to turn the radio off, and he's like, "What, you don't like music?" And I think she goes like, "Not really." So, she doesn't like music. And on the flip side, I actually did come up with an answer for this one. Name one thing that interests Edward Cullen. And I came up with an answer. He likes baseball. Sometimes. He plays baseball with his family. They never talk about baseball. I don't really think Bella's into baseball. But it's things like that that really puzzle me about how people relate, how women especially relate to Twilight as a series. Just how much they buy into this relationship, how much they relate to Edward and Bella, and are just so believing in their devotion to one another. And so they have so many conversations, and it stuns me how thick these books are, how long these books go on, how long these movies are, how many conversations Edward and Bella have, but it's all about the same thing. Every time they get together, it's basically her begging him to make her a vampire. In this movie, at least. She's like, "Make me a vampire." He goes, "No, I can't. It's dangerous. I don't want you to become like me. I fear for your soul. It's dangerous. You'll kill people. I don't want that on my conscience. You're too precious to me, Bella. I don't want that to happen." And she keeps begging him, "Please make me a vampire. I want to be like you. I don't want to grow old. I want you to want me forever. I want you to find me attractive forever," because, once again, we're going back to the shallow physical attraction is the only thing that interests Bella Swan. But it's remarkable. Like, every conversation is like that. And so every conversation, they are trying to, like, compromise and make a deal about, how and when she'll become a vampire, how and when they'll get married, whether or not he'll make her a vampire before or after, when they'll actually fuck. She wants to have sex, but he wants to wait for marriage, but they make a deal like, I want to have sex with you before I become a vampire, and he's like, no, it's too dangerous, I'll hurt you, I have to do it after, but I don't want to make you a vampire at all. And you can see, it's just over and over with this shit. Like, you can really see how I started to drone off here. Like, I don't know how they can keep discussing this shit and nothing gets accomplished. And in this movie, I think more than any other, really, at first I really just hated Bella, and I still do. But this movie really wanted me to hate both Edward and Jacob, to the point where it's like fuck Team Edward and Team Jacob. It's not about that anymore. All of these characters are horrible people. So Jacob comes off as like a fucking rapist in this movie. It's hilarious how what's the word? How desperate, how obsessed he is with fucking Bella. And let's just ignore the fact, for instance, that I have no idea what they see in Bella at all. She's this drowsy-eyed blank slate of a mumbling woman who, let's face facts, is not all that attractive. She's attractive, but she's not like Helen of fucking Troy. She's not this woman who you would go to war for, and once again, I'm going based purely on physical looks here, which again is the only thing I'm left falling back on because there's no substantive connection between any of them on a mental, philosophical, theological level. They make no kind of mental connection, so I have to resort to the physical. I just don't get Bella here. But Jacob, he comes across like a rapist. I can't even tell you how many lines I was looking over at Scarlett going like, that's the exact thing a rapist would say. You love me, you just won't admit it yet. Or, in time you'll grow to love me, I'll make you love me. Or, better you be dead than be with him. Better you be dead than be one of them. Warning signs. Creepy little bit. So the fact that he's so obsessed with fucking Bella, and let's face it, Anna Kendrick is right across the table. Anna Kendrick, who is fucking slumming being in these Twilight movies. Did you see her in Up in the Air? She's amazing. And the fact that she's actually so able to pull off the stupid Valley Girl routine in this movie, Anna Kendrick is an amazing actress. Gorgeous to boot. And I was like, she is by far more beautiful than fucking Kristen Stewart with her sunken, shadowed eyes and her chipmunky teeth and her fucking mumbling all the time. I don't know. Even the cute little Asian girl I thought was better looking than fucking Bella Swan, but okay. But Jacob, fucking slavish to this woman, and I just don't get it. To the point he's obsessive, he's wanting to kill people, and Edward now has become this controlling son of a bitch who's he's always staring at her and being all controlling, wanting to know where she's going and why and who she's seeing, and threatening to kill this dude for paying too much attention to her. And I at first I kind of thought maybe that's why people related to Edward so much, that maybe all they want is a man who is willing to go to the wall for them and willing to kill and sacrifice and do all these things for them. And I guess if that's what... But, that's not really a unique trait to the Twilight series. And I think that's what kills me with the Twilight series is... we're looking into... Here's what it is. We're dealing with a bodice ripper Harlequin romance story about a woman who's torn between two shadowy, mysterious, angsty dudes. But that's not a new phenomenon. That's from the beginning from epic storytelling from the beginning. There's entire sections devoted to that kind of literature. It's called Harlequin romance. It's called the romance section in general. You can find all sorts of trash romance that is actually far better written than Twilight, that deals with almost the exact same topic. It's better done that way, where we have these two beefy, bulging, mysterious, angsty heroes fighting over a woman. That's not new. That's soap opera. So I think that's why it mystifies me so much. is that we know this is well tread over ground, but why this? Why the fucking Cullens? There's so many romance authors who have done much better work on a much trashier subject that I don't know. But Edward here, actually Edward shows far more emotion in this movie than I think he ever has before. In fact, this is the only time I think I've ever seen Edward smile in 3 movies. He smiles, and I was like, that's such an alien expression. I was like, it stuck out in my mind. He was just like, he was kind of joking at certain points. And I think it's a real credit to the director that who's done Hard Candy, that he was able to turn out actually really good performances out of even Kristen Stewart, who I am really turning on as an actress, like as being just abominably bad. Pattinson, who I think is actually dreadfully miscast as Edward Cullen. This is just from a dude standpoint, but I don't think he looks all that attractive. I don't think he looks all that mysterious or threatening, or even much as a sex object. In fact, I think he looks more than a little ridiculous. Sparkling aside, he looks like he's got clown white makeup on, and he looks like the eyebrows, the 2 dark hairy eyebrows. He kind of looks like me in that short film I did, which was, the makeup job there was kind of silly. But, where was I going with this? Edward, man, he's really obsessive with this thing, but like the first 70 minutes or so is just like the talking, and ironically enough, it's probably the best part of it. Jasper has more of a role, the kind of the Harpo character. You find out by the way, Scarlett was rolling when we see Jasper in his Civil War Major's outfit. She was just like, really? We're going here? Look at him, he's in a fucking Civil War outfit. He looks like a fucking dolt. And like, she was rolling at that point. She was laughing her ass off. Oh man, I was gonna say something about the Harlequin romance thing, like how it. Fuck, I lost it. Forget it. Doesn't matter. But I'll try to recap the story here, such as it is. Nothing really happens in this movie. This movie ends, and they're like exactly where they were when New Moon ended. Like he proposes marriage, and that's kind of where we're at the end of this movie. Like they're like, we're gonna get married. Credits! And so, okay. Here's what happens. The red-headed vampire Victoria wants revenge on Edward for killing her ponytailed fruity boyfriend at the end of Twilight. So, she starts raising a vampire army in Seattle. None too subtly, I might add. Because, as we all know, newborn vampires are never more physically potent or dangerous than when they are first made. Which kind of runs contrary to common vampire lore, where you would think that as vampires get older, they would grow more powerful. Honing their gifts, honing their talents, becoming more physically powerful, subsisting on the blood of mortals. Like, every vampire book I've ever seen is like older vampires would logically be more powerful. I guess they're just trying to put over the fact that new vampires have less of a grip on their rage and their hunger, so they're frenzied. They're kind of in a frenzy. So, okay. And I'm down with that, but these vampires are literally tearing apart Seattle to the point where you can see it's national news. And there's like riots are breaking out, mysterious gang violence is tearing apart Seattle. And actually, again, I was actually kind of interested in that because for once, things are happening. For once, we're not talking about Edward and Bella's really go-nowhere romance. We've actually got political intrigue. We've got violence, the threat of something bigger occurring. Because the characters are talking about, wow, those vampires are not being very subtle. They're tearing apart Seattle. They're killing people en masse. Like the murders here are skyrocketing. Why don't the Volturi do something about this? And sure enough, the Volturi are kind of observing this, and I'm like, this is kind of interesting. Like, maybe something might be happening with the Volturi. Something might be happening with the vampire community at large. That interested me. Silly though it is, as complete fucking nonsense the vampire lore is, it was more interesting than the romance. Maybe that's just the dude in me talking, but the romance does nothing for me. So the Volturi come down and they observe this thing and they're like, should we do something about this? And of course they go, yeah. Why do something? Why start now? Why start doing anything in this fucking series? Dakota Fanning, who is, I think, Jane, the blonde vampire who can cause pain with a thought. Again, miscast. Wasted. Her character does nothing in this film except have really ridiculous contact lenses in. What kills me about the Volturi... if you don't know, the Volturi are like the elite coven of ancient vampires who are like the political stroke in all the world. Like if you break the vampire laws, the Volturi fucking kill you. Well, apparently they don't, because these newborn vampires are literally tearing Seattle, burning it down, and the Volturi have their thumbs up their asses. But what kills me about the Volturi is they dress like it's the Italian Renaissance. Like they dress in these really elaborate coats with the frilly lace cravats. You know, they have like dueling swords on, and they have the huge thigh-high boots that are like riding boots that are like leather, and they have the big frilly hats, and they have their hair pulled back in ponytails, and they've got the fucking frilly wigs, and like it's like the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. They go outside like this. They walk around dressed like this. Wouldn't you think if you're like an immortal fucking vampire and, you know, t-shirt and jeans, you know, it's kind of a funny part of vampire lore how many like vampires, you know, dress like Blade, you know, they dress head to toe in leather, they've all got a trench coat, they've all got a katana, they all wear shades no matter what time of night it is, and, you know, that's just as bad. Well, not quite as bad. You know, you might think somebody's just a gothic dude, but how much attention do you draw to yourself when you step out of the fucking shadows, dress like you're a character from Les Miserables or something? Like, you know, it's like they're stepping off an opera. You know, like, and they got the fucking glowing eyes, which to me, the red piercing eyes is far more of a giveaway to their vampiric nature. And that happens all the time, than the fucking sparkling. And the sparkling, they seem to have just forgotten. I don't get this. Like, Edward just walks around in the daylight all the time. Like, he goes to the sheriff's office and meets Charlie Swan in broad daylight, and he's not really sparkling. And even if he was, I don't know what Charlie would think. Except that he's really fruity, and he already kind of thinks that. Charlie is one of the most laid-back, easygoing parents I've ever seen in my life, because, like, the entire movie, she's got, like, human bite marks that are, like, scarred on her arm. She routinely comes home with injuries, and Charlie's like, is Edward treating you right? And she's like, yeah, totally. He's like, alright, you're grounded. This guy, I don't know. Anyway, so she's raising an army, and of course there's no suspense in any of this, because Alice the Cullen vampire can see the future. So she knows everything that's about to happen, which, you know, the best way to completely undermine all drama or suspense in your movie is have a character who can unerringly see the future, predict what's going to happen, and completely undermine the villain's machinations at every turn, so the heroes are always ready for them when the villains arrive. That's bad storytelling, because dramatically there's no drama, you know, like there's no secrets, there's no suspense, you know what's going to happen, and sure enough, pretty much everything happens the way she figures. But, like, the reason Victoria's trying to... Apparently she's trying to circumvent the future sight by creating Riley as a vampire and sending Riley off to make vampires and sending Riley off to do things, so it's somehow indirect, and that will somehow circumvent Alice's vision. And it kind of does, but it doesn't. Because she sees it happening anyway, and sure enough, they're pretty much ready for him. So, the story, meanwhile, on the Edward front, Bella refuses to marry Edward until she makes her a vampire, and Edward says, I'll do it as soon as we're married, and blah, 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 blah. Seriously, they spend like 50 minutes hashing this out in just really boring talky scenes. Jacob, this whole time, is like smoldering over Bella. It's just like, I don't know. And finally they decide they're going to call a truce because they realize that Victoria's coming, and so they're like, okay, we'll team up with the Cullens and beat up the vampires, but, that's as far as we go. So, Edward is growing more and more jealous of Jacob because he has abs. I don't know. So, okay, Jasper's like, I know how to deal with vampires because when the Civil War, I fought vampires all the time. Just roll with it, okay? Jasper knows how to deal with this shit. So, like, Jasper, he's like, I want all the Cullens in this field, and I'm gonna get all the werewolves, and I'm gonna teach you how to fight newborn vampires. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay down this ambush in an open field and let them attack us in this open field. Because tactically, that's brilliant. Somehow. I don't know. You'd think you'd lure them into an ambush where you could jump out from a hidden position and attack them, or maybe mine the area, or booby trap it. I'm just saying, it might make sense from a tactical perspective to create some kind of use the landscape to your advantage instead of an open field, which grants you no kind of advantage unless you happen to be, in fact, wielding artillery, in which an open field might be advantageous to you, but they don't. You think the cover of trees might actually be advantageous, or the use of weapons. But no! Jasper instead instructs them to run real fast at them and clothesline them at, like, Mach 2. Which, I guess, would hurt. But it doesn't really seem like anything that they weren't doing already. In fact, Jasper doesn't really seem to teach them all that much except kind of wrestling. I don't know. But what kind of confused me about that one is, okay, actually from both sides, if you're going into a conflict, you're going into a fight against other vampires, wouldn't you bring a weapon? Of any kind? They don't. None of them do. I mean, the werewolves, of course, don't need any, but none of the vampires, like, this is actually the one time when, as a vampire, you might bust out your katana. Your Scottish claymore. The weapons that you could use your vampiric strength and speed to wield at an unholy... use them to an advantage of some kind. Like, can you imagine how fast a vampire could swing like a fucking claymore and, like, just run rampant in an open field? But they don't. None of the vampires seem interested in weapons. No swords, no guns, no flamethrowers, no kind of landmines or booby traps. And before you start calling, like, when would a vampire have a flamethrower or landmines? Well, we're talking about Jasper, who has military experience, who would have access to firearms, or at least the knowledge to acquire and use them, would have knowledge of creating ambushes or some kind of booby traps or landmines. And besides that, after 150 years, I think you might get kind of fucking bored and learn how to defend yourself, learn how to create explosives, acquire some kind of weapons. Should you ever encounter the circumstance when, you might encounter other vampires or werewolves or other creatures of the night who might want to tear your head off? Just saying. So, none of them carry weapons, even a baseball bat. Because apparently these vampires turn to, like, marble and crumble into dust when you kill them, so, like, a baseball bat you might think might be really effective. But no! So they just kind of play grab ass in the woods, and they start fighting each other. So they decide they're going to take Bella up. They're going to take her somewhere safe. Because they don't want, like, they're after Bella. Victoria wants to kill Bella to remind Edward of the pain that she suffered when Edward killed her boyfriend. Roll with it. So they're like, we're gonna use Bella's blood to lure them into this field, but we're gonna take Bella and take her somewhere safe. So they decide to take her to a tent on top of a mountain. Okay. First question that Scarlett pointed out, like before, I didn't even have to prompt her anymore. Like, you know, she's actually getting rather good at pointing out these plot holes. She's like, why did they take her to a mountain? Why didn't they take her somewhere else? Somewhere a little easier to reach, like police station, public place like a shopping mall, hotel, out of state, on a Greyhound bus, on a cruise liner somewhere, a police station, or somewhere nobody could possibly reach her. No, a tent on top of a mountain. One of the most badly scouted trips, by the way, because, as it happens, a storm blows in. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're aware that a storm is blowing in long before they even get up to the top of the mountain. I think there's a scene where they're preparing for battle in the field, and like Edward says, Alice says there's a storm coming. And Jacob says, yeah, I felt it. So they know there's a storm coming, and yet they don't prepare for this at all. So they choose the flimsiest fucking tent they could come up with, and Bella immediately starts freezing her tits off, to the point where they think she's going to die. She's under like 3 layers of blankets, but she's freezing to death. And okay, now here comes the most contrived fucking scene that I think I've ever been aware of in any kind of, like, I don't think anyone could possibly watch this scene and not say, like, this is the most contrived horseshit ever. But, okay, so she starts freezing to death. Never occurred to anyone that they could run down, bring a fucking blanket or something like that. Or bring a space heater, or one of those little chemical pads you put in your blanket and it heats up, or an electric blanket or some kind, or build a fire. I guess, well, okay, not build a fire because it's storming outside, but you know what I mean. This is not the hardest thing to work out, you know. So, okay, so the contrivance comes when she's freezing to death. Jacob, shirtless, comes in and he's like, Bella's freezing. And Edward's like, I know, I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. And Jacob's like, I will lay on her, because I have an extraordinarily high body temperature, and I will lay on her and keep her safe. So, this comes the infamous spooning scene, where Jacob big spoons Bella, and Edward has to watch as the entire night Jacob is spooning Bella and kind of like smirking at her like, I am popping such a boner right now. Like, I am bonering your girlfriend right in the back. Like, you see that? You feel that? Yeah. You like that, Edward? You don't want her to freeze to death, Edward. I'm bonering her. Like, I could do it right now. Like, and Edward is like, the whole time. By the way, I finally figured out Edward's acting method. Robert Pattinson, this whole time, if you imagine every time he's acting, he is attempting to pass a kidney stone. That's what he's acting like. And that's another thing that always bothered me. Like, you never get the impression, whenever they're interacting with one another, Edward and Bella, that they love each other. It looks more like they're in physical pain. And I know that, like, their romance is kind of one of those where, like, they have such problems that it hurts to be them, and we've got so many problems, we're in such agony, we're in pain when we're not together, and we're in pain when we're apart, and even when we're together it hurts because I love him so much. But it looks like they physically nauseate each other. Like, when they're together, it really looks like they can't stand to be around. They can't wait to get apart. Like, it's kind of silly that way. But so, this is the part that really had me, like, I actually almost stood up and started walking around to, like, just pace off. I was like, oh, shit, you can't. What happens is, the next morning, Jacob spoons her all night, okay? So, next morning, storm passes. The place is covered in snow. Bella gets out of the tent, not even shivering. She's fine now. Like, it's still snowy, it's like, 20 degrees outside. She's fine now. Now that Jacob slipped her the boner, she's fine. So they're talking, and Edward lets it slip that they're getting married. Jacob flips his shit. he's like, what? You're gonna marry one of these bloodsuckers? I wish you were dead. I wish you were all dead. Fuck this. I'm out of here. So, like, Jacob, he starts storming off, and Bella's like, please don't, Jacob, I don't want you to go. Please don't go, Jacob, I need you, Jacob. And Jacob's like, you gotta do better than that, bitch. You've been fucking toying with me this whole time. And Bella's like, but please, I want you to stay, please, Jacob. And she's like, I'm leaving. And Bella's like, but Jacob, I love you. And Jacob's like, what? What? And Bella's like, yeah, kiss me. And Jacob's like, fuck yeah, and like runs up and like just lays like the biggest one on her, and of course the music swells, and all the women start like, oh my god, I'm Jacob, and so of course he's got his shirt off the whole time. It's, oh my god, like all the women are doing like the DJ diddle, sitting down, they're like, oh my god. So like music swells up, and he's doing, I'm like when Bella says, kiss me, and I'm like, I was like, oh, Jesus, fuck it, you cannot be serious! Really? Bella is like, I yelled out, and you can ask her, I yelled in the theater, like, she is fucking with them at this point. She is just fucking with them. There's no other way to interpret this thing, like, she is literally fucking with them, like, just fucking with them. I couldn't fucking believe it. Like, this whole time, she's like, I love Edward. It's always been Edward. I'm destined to be with Edward. I love him and his pale face and his big bushy caterpillar eyebrows. And I want to be with him always because we have so much to talk about. And then she's like, kiss me, Jacob, now. Kiss me hard. And I'm like, this manipulative bitch. Like, it's gone beyond sociopathic behavior, okay? At first I was like, she's sociopathic. She has no understanding, no conception. She's not even aware that other people have feelings. No. She's aware of them. She has contempt for them. I think she, in fact, revels in their misery. Revels in just toying with their emotions and hearts, and like just cackling as she crushes their wills, crushes their aspirations, and just like takes their hearts out and just like stomps on them. Like, this bitch is toying with these dudes, and they are like so eager to be toyed with. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, not only did we have the contrived spooning scene, but she's just like just 20 feet away. There's Edward, her fiance at this point, and she's making out with another dude. Because she's like, I love you too. I just love Edward more. I'm like, oh, you fucking whore. Like, she is, I'm trying to think of a more flat out evil character, and I can't. Like, even most villains believe they're doing the right thing. You know, like the fucking Emperor of Star Wars. He's like, I want law and order in this galaxy. That's the Emperor. Like, sure, he's like, I embrace the powers of evil to do this, but like, I want order. This is like, the galaxy needs order. But like, fucking Bella is like, let's see how long I can string these two dudes on. You know, and like, just fucking toying with them. It's unbelievable. This woman is... seriously, like, we should do a character study of the manipulation, because it's masterful. Like, it's amazing, this act she puts on to toy with these guys. I'm just rambling about this, because like, I was rambling in the theater. I was like, no, really? I was just getting like falsetto, and like people are looking back like, the fuck is with you? I'm like, look at this shit! Can you believe this shit? Like this. And so, of course, none of the good guys die in this epic confrontation, which basically occurs in like motion too fast to see, that it's really shaky and unclear and really unsatisfying. Like, you know, like I said, they were building this movie as like this big action climax, and it's really it's like 90 minutes before we get to the confrontation. it's like 3 minutes long, and it's not that well shot. I actually think it's a real miscalculation to make these encounters with the vampires and werewolves so bloodless. Like I said, when they die, they kind of turn into like ash or like a statue. They actually kind of like turn into marble. That's kind of like their motif. But it's all really bloodless. I don't know if it's to preserve the rating, but for a race of vampires whose whole gimmick is that they suck blood, like there's really not much blood in this movie. It was amazing how underwhelming I actually thought this would be a better movie because I thought there was going to be like a big war. Like the guys all standing in a line and the guys charging in the field and no. And then they fight, and then Victoria fights her, and I don't know why they recast the redhead, but who cares? So really the only thing that got accomplished is the redhead is out of their lives. The Vulturi do nothing, to the point where I don't know why they were even involved. I think there's some kind of political thing going on where, like, the Vulturi want the Cullens to die, so they were like, well, we'll let the newborns attack the Cullens, and if the Cullens die, cool. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense. This shit confuses me. And, I've actually been warned by quite a few people. I was like, I was talking to some of my friends on Skype, and they're like, "What are you going to go see a movie this week?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're going to go see Eclipse." And they're like, whew. And they're like, "Are you going to see The Last Airbender?" And I was like, "Yeah, probably. I probably should, because I've heard it's really bad." And they're like, "Don't. I'm like, really? Why?" And they're like, "It's bad. It's so bad." Like, people were like, like when I was all shell-shocked after Indiana Jones and stuff like that, I saw people shell-shocked after Last Airbender. And no, but I haven't, if I'm repeating anything the Cinema Snob has said, I have not seen his reviews of Last Airbender or Eclipse, because I actually wanted to go in this with kind of an open mind. I still have not seen them. Actually, as soon as I post this, I'll probably go see them, just so to compare notes. But Last Airbender, what really strikes me with that one is, okay, Mr. Shyamalan, when you release a movie, when the Twilight Saga movie is not the worst movie that was released this week, you need to rethink your profession. And I mean, you need to rethink it hard. Because my brother saw it, and I should actually just get him in front of the camera to tell you what the fucking Last Airbender is like, to save me the trouble, but I will probably go end up seeing, because I'm actually kind of a Shyamalan... it's almost like an Uwe Boll thing with him now, where I really liked The Sixth Sense, and I really liked Unbreakable, and I even stood up for Signs, and I know, with Signs, I know, I know, okay, just, no, I know, okay, I stood up for Signs. The Village was just like, I called The Village before I even saw the fucking trailer. The Happening. If you haven't seen The Happening, see it. Just see it. The Happening is a comedic masterpiece. I don't know if tell me if I've done the Marky Mark impression from The Happening, because if I haven't done it, I'll do it. But I think I've done it. Because I can do it really well. Hey guys, just watch The Happening and then tell me to do the Marky Mark, and I'll do the Marky Mark. But you have to see the movie first before I do the Marky Mark, because you'll be like, what the fuck is he doing? The impression is bullshit. Like, no, see The Happening, because this is a movie, The Happening, where the villain is wind. Yeah. Wind. It's like the cheapest, in the history of movie monsters, in the history of villainy, and in the history of movie special effects, You will never see an effect as cheap, as pathetic, and as desperate as the wind. There are scenes in this movie where Marky Mark is trying to outrun wind. They are trying to hide from wind. That's the happening. Wind. I spent like a week, not just like, I wasn't like sitting in a room just thinking like this one, like, but I was trying to think of more ridiculous things to encounter in a movie than wind. And I came up with a few things. My favorite one was, okay, here's the movie. The monster is high humidity. Yeah. So, yeah. If you can come up with stupider monsters than the wind, post your comments here. But The Last Airbender, I have not seen the Avatar Last Airbender anime. I don't want to. I'm not a big anime fan. I know, heresy. But, it just didn't really interest me. And neither really does the movie. Actually, seriously, I thought the movie looked okay. I thought, I'm still kind of the opinion that as long as the movie kind of keeps the action moving, it can't be that bad. Oh, ignorant me, I know. I mean, seriously, with Twilight, if they had kept the action coming, it might not have been that bad. You know, if they'd have kept it over like 3 minutes of an action climax, it might have been okay. No, but yeah, Shyamalan, man, when you're getting outdone by Eclipse, you just gotta, man, that's like, I know I kind of seem like I fall silent, but man, you think about that, like, can you imagine, like, you put a movie out, like, you spent years on this movie, and, like, it's worse than Eclipse. You got it, like, that's like Hemingway level depression, man. That's fucking deep. Man. So, yeah, thanks for listening, guys. I don't really know what I accomplished here. News flash, Eclipse sucks, but I don't know if I've gone over this, but you gotta hope, Breaking Dawn, you gotta hope that movie gets made, and you gotta hope that it goes balls out. Like, you gotta hope that it goes balls to the wall. There are scenes in that movie, and yes, I've read the synopsis on Wikipedia, because I've heard people kind of circulating rumors about what goes on in that film, or in that book. If even half of that makes it through, I have no idea. The whole imprinting thing, where Jacob imprints on somebody in this movie, the whole rape wolf thing, I have no idea how they're going to pull this off. It will be truly amazing to see them try. I would love to be in this movie. I would love to be backstage for this flick, just to see the weird shit that goes on, because seriously, the stuff that goes on in Breaking Dawn, the only guy I think could possibly do it is David Cronenberg. And if you don't know who David Cronenberg is, check out Scanners, check out Videodrome, Naked Lunch, anything he's done, and just, you'll see. And besides that, if you haven't seen a Cronenberg movie, shame on you. Go see, like, I have, like, every one of his movies, except Naked Lunch, and I'm working on that. I don't know why I don't have Naked Lunch, but, yeah. Man. Just look up what happens in Breaking Dawn, or at least ask somebody to tell you, like, somebody who knows. Ask him to tell you, because that movie, I still think that movie is unfilmable. I don't get how you can do the thing with the placenta and the C-section and the violent sex and the baby kicking to break the spine, and I'm excited. Like, of any movie that I'll be there opening day, Breaking Dawn. You believe that, because I have to see how they pull this shit off. Everything in Eclipse has been leading to this. Because, I think with Breaking Dawn, the next great cultural fall of the Western civilization will finally be complete. And, I was talking with my brother, like, the Twilight thing, how long do you think it's going to be? Like, 15 years? 10? When we look back on the Twilight Saga and go, Jesus Christ, what the fuck were we doing? Like I was trying to think of cultural fads that were similar to that, like disco. And I was like, nah, disco, we kind of make fun of disco, but disco had some merit. No. I was like, Vanilla Ice, or New Kids on the Block. These things that are, like, even today, like, punchlines of things that we really thought were just cool as hell, cool as ice, that are just, we just look back and we just shake our heads and go, like, oh my God, we had posters of that guy. Like, we bought books. We bought tickets to that. And I even think it's even a little more unique than even, like, the Vanilla Ice phenomenon, because I don't remember even during the time of Vanilla Ice, people were so set against Vanilla Ice where people were saying, like, Vanilla Ice is horseshit. Like, 15 years from now, we'll say Vanilla Ice was complete crap. No. Vanilla Ice was big. New Kids on the Block were big. I don't remember anyone saying anything bad about those guys. Like, Twilight, right now, it's like there's this minority who is just rabid about Twilight, and yet there's no middle ground with Twilight. There's not people who are like, Twilight, it's okay. No. It's like, you either worship it or like bone deep that Twilight is the worst, the worst abomination to strike Western culture in the aughts, in the year 2000 to 2010. Like, it's just horrendous. It's inexplicable, and that was my big journey here. Like, I spent so much of Eclipse going on this journey, like this introspective journey, just trying to figure it out. Just trying to find one thing that I could relate to, one thing that I could understand about this romance, about this story. And you know what? I failed. I couldn't do it. I don't know. It's inexplicable, guys. And it's to the point where it's actually kind of interesting. And there might be a movie in this, where, like, I'm thinking, like, some kind of, I almost think like documentary, like where I have to get like a round table or something like that, but it'd be so hard to do because Twilight fans are not going to line themselves up for ridicule. Who would? I'm not going to be like, okay, here's 6 Twilight fans going to argue with 6 haters of Twilight, because they're like, I think even the 6 Twilight fans will be like, it's inexplicable. There's got to be some way to explore this fan phenomenon and try to deconstruct it. Like, I gotta get like doctorates or literary experts, people who analyze Shakespeare, literary majors, people who write novels, and just interview them and ask them to explain this to me. Like Bill Moyers or Joseph Campbell, Hero with 1,000 Faces, The Fucking Power of Myth. There's gotta be something I can tie into with this. Like, I gotta know. Like Star Wars and The Power of Myth, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Like, anyone who's ever taken a cinema class, every asshole who's ever gone to college and taken one of these classes, like, is immediately force-fed this whole Joseph Campbell thing in Star Wars, where it's like it harkens back to the ancient myths, but bullshit with Twilight, man. Bullshit. I call such bullshit. But there has to be something, like, I don't know. It's maybe it's the obsession with finding the truth. I must know. But I need to find some kind of, like, if you know of any experts that I could, like, sit down and interview and just we could deconstruct the Twilight Saga, and even if it's like just getting some really smart British guy to tear this film a fucking asshole, I gotta do it. But I don't know how long I've been talking. Probably about an hour and a half. Next one will be The Last Airbender, because there will be a slow night. I should be working. Should be doing Mazes and Monsters, but no. The siren call of bad movies. It summons me. I'll talk to you later.